Hello, beautifuls. My name is Quavia. Welcome to my little safe corner of the internet. In today's video, I'm here to tell you a story. The Afro wisdom that I want to share with you is a tale that comes from the Nuer people. I hope I'm pronouncing their name correctly, but the Nuer people are from South Sudan and possibly into Ethiopia. So we are finally telling a tale from East Africa, which is very, very exciting for me. This short story that I'll be sharing is coming from the book African Folk Tales, which is retold by A. Seni. Unfortunately, my research into who A. Seni is came up a little short, so I wasn't able to ascertain who they are or their background, which makes me a little skeptical and very wary. But I'm still excited to read this tale. There's a good message in it. It's actually interesting how I came across this book. This was like a year or two before COVID, pre-COVID, and I was at this event where there was karaoke and stuff, and this place where we went to do some karaoke, it's both a restaurant and a bookstore that sells books in English. And so, yeah, we were at this event, and as we were leaving, probably in some god-awful time in the early mornings, we saw this box labeled free books, so we can just take them. And as I was flipping through, I found this one. And I thought it was actually quite interesting. I was already actively, consciously on my spiritual journey, but I wasn't deep into like folk tales yet. So it wasn't anything of interest, but I remember knowing that I needed it. So I took the book from the box and I put the book on my bookshelf and completely forgot about it. And recently, when I was going through my bookshelf, I remembered it and I found it. So shout out to past Quavia. You always tried your best and you did a good job looking after me, present Quavia, and her needs. So any which way, beautifuls, I can't wait to tell you the wisdom of this tale. But first, let me tell you the story of the grateful serpent. The grateful serpent. One day, a man came upon two serpents fighting with one another. He drew near and saw that one of them was about to get the worst of it. The man was moved to pity, and using a stick, he separated the two opponents. He threatened the bigger one, which took off as fast as it could, and touched the other one with the end of his stick to see if it was still alive. "Thank you ever so much," the serpent exclaimed. "Were it not for you, I would be dead by now. To show you my gratitude, I will cast a spell on you that will allow you to understand everything animals say." "Are you serious?" asked the man. "Of course. You will know what the mosquito, the mouse, and even the cow is saying. But keep this to yourself." This gift pleased the man. The two said a friendly goodbye, and then each went his own way. That evening, before going to bed, the man carefully closed all the doors and windows. A little while later, a mosquito tried to get through the door. It tried the windows next, but couldn't even find a crack to slip through. Then, thoroughly enraged, it buzzed. "Foul curses on this place. This house is sealed up tighter than a coffin. How can I get in there?" Inside the house, the man understood the buzzing and began to laugh. "Hey, why are you laughing?" his wife asked, turning over to look at him. "Oh, it's nothing," replied the man, stifling another laugh, and they went back to sleep. Not long afterward, a mouse also tried to get in. It checked the door and the windows, and they seemed impossible to get through. The mouse thought for a few minutes and then made straight for the roof. It found an opening between the planks and stole into the house. The mouse explored all the rooms looking for cheese, but after rummaging here and rummaging there, it found there was no cheese anywhere. Then it squeaked in annoyance. "Curses! What kind of house is this? There's not even a crumb of cheese rind in here." Lying in bed, the man heard the mouse, understood its squeaking, and laughed heartily. "What's there to laugh about now?" asked his wife. "Oh, nothing at all, really," replied her husband, trying hard to restrain himself. The night passed and dawn came. Just as he did every other morning, the man went into the cow shed, untied the cattle, and led them to pasture. The cows were talking to each other, and the man listened to them with great interest. Then it was time to milk the cows, and his wife arrived with the pail and stool. The largest of the cows mooed. "Girls, here comes that woman to steal our milk." Hearing this and understanding it, the man laughed heartily. "Laughing again?" said his wife angrily. "No. Well," said the husband, but he didn't have time to come up with a believable excuse, and at the same time, the cow started mooing again. "Not today, my dear. Today, I'm keeping my milk for my little calf." And she slowly trotted further away from the woman. And the man who heard this and understood it couldn't manage to restrain himself, and he laughed again. "Well," exploded his wife, "who do you think you're making fun of?" "Oh, my sweet little wife. Nobody, he said, trying to calm her down. "You're behaving like a fool," she said, and taking up her pail and stool, she went back home. In the evening, the woman came back to milk the cows, but she only got a few drops. "Husband, this cow is not cooperating," she exclaimed. "Are you going to take care of nursing my calf?" mooed the cow mischievously. The man doubled up with laughter. "Oh, so you're laughing, huh?" shrieked the woman, angered. "You're making fun of me, and you don't care a thing about me." And once again, the cow mooed, and maybe he has his reasons. And out came another laugh from the husband, who once again couldn't manage to restrain himself. "If that's the way it is," said his wife at that point, "I'm going to ask the wise men of the village to meet at our house tonight. I will tell them my problem and ask for a divorce." The husband couldn't find the strength to reply, choked with laughter as he was, and this certainly did not serve to calm his wife's anger. In the evening, the wise men came, sat down around the fire, and said to the woman, "You sent for us. What is this about?" "My husband is laughing at me for no reason at all. We go to bed and he laughs. He takes the cattle to graze and he laughs. I go to milk them and he laughs. I don't like to be made fun of." The wise men looked at each other, nodding in agreement, and said to the husband, "Explain to us, why are you laughing at your wife?" "No, wise man, I'm not laughing at her," said the husband. "Then who are you laughing at?" they asked. "I'm not allowed to say," replied the man. You don't mean to pull our legs too, do you? Speak, commanded the wise men. So the man decided to tell them about the grateful serpent who had given him this magic gift. In short, he concluded, I can hear and understand everything that the animals are saying. The wise men looked at each other and shook their heads. The case was crystal clear. The man had gone crazy. Then they left the room to speak with one another and came to a decision. Woman, they said when they entered, as of this day, you are free. You are granted a divorce because your husband has gone mad. The woman began to cry, and her husband tried to explain again how things were. But the wise men's verdict could not be appealed, and it was no use trying to make them change their minds. The marriage was ended. The people of the village sympathized with the unhappy couple, and the man retired to a deserted spot to avoid causing more trouble for his former wife. He had been living there for some time when he met the serpent again. Man, the serpent said to him, it is a pleasure to see you again. What on earth are you doing around these parts? If you only knew, he replied, sighing. I had to reveal your great gift to me, to my village, and they all thought I was crazy. I lost my wife, and I had to leave the village. No one can say that you've brought me luck. How stupid you men are, exclaimed the serpent. You don't see what's true, and you take appearances for fact. Listen, the people who call you crazy are crazier than you. Don't think about them anymore. You lost a wife who didn't understand you, and with her, the trouble of supporting her. You have escaped the stupidity of your fellow men, and you had faith in what you believed. Who could be happier than you? Be merry, and may the gods protect you. It's true, thought the man. The serpent is right. I am a free man and a lucky one. And whistling happily, he headed for a field of corn to listen to the conversation of the free and lucky birds. So, that's the tale of the OG Dr. Dolittle. I'm joking. So there's some great messages and observations that I had when I read that tale, and I sat with it and I thought about it for a while. I mean, it's clear the message of the serpent, right? The people who call you crazy are crazier than you. Don't think about them anymore. You lost a wife who didn't understand you, and with her, the trouble of supporting her. You have escaped the stupidity of your fellow men, and you had faith in what you believed. Who could be happier than you? I love that. I mean, it's a very clear message that you can apply to the path that you are walking along. There are definitely people that we have and we will come across that won't understand and will call us crazy or worse. And along the path of this journey that you're on, it may feel as though we have lost people or that we are alone. But sometimes, just sometimes, a lost is not a loss, but freedom. And this is a part of that message that the serpent was explaining to this individual. The fact that, he felt like he basically lost everything, but then the serpent reminding him, or not reminding him, more of affirming to him that he had faith in what he believed. He was telling the truth, and so who could be happier, So in this sense, the serpent wanted to look at his removal from this cycle of fighting and stupidity of the village and affirming peace in his life. I mean, I can imagine, if I'm putting myself in his shoes, the level of grief and kind of disbelief that as a human we have to recognize those feelings. We can't just push them away. We have to recognize them and confront them. But as the serpent says, more or less, is that a loss is not a loss. That it's freedom. It's freedom. And I love the fact that this tale, the blessing came from a serpent. In the Abrahamic religions and just religions of the sort, the serpent has been demonized and kind of seen as, something that can't be trusted. As we say, what's that one phrase? Be careful of the snake in the grass, or something along those lines. We're always warned about the serpent. And actually, in the beginning of the tale, we have two serpents. Yeah, we have two serpents that are fighting each other. And so I kind of love this idea of the nature of the serpent can be sort of expanded, as the serpent can also be the bringer and the knower of knowledge and the bringer of gifts, and also wisdom as well. Serpents definitely represent wisdom. And actually, when I was reading this tale, in a kind of like roundabout way, I was getting parallels of like the Garden of Eden kind of vibes, where, this person is confronted with a snake, and the serpent provides this knowledge or this gift that is then misunderstood, basically, and he's kicked out because of it. He's kicked out of his home, but at least at the end of the story in this one, he goes off in a much happier tune of his freedom and his gift. So I love the fact that the serpent here is highlighted as I said, as the knower of knowledge and wisdom, as the bringer of gifts, and because that is also the nature of the serpent energy, right? Something else that I have to speak on that I resonated with this story. So I'm the type of person that I like to see things from all angles and try my best to give space to that. And I won't lie, for a little bit, I felt a bit bad for the wife up to a certain point. I felt bad for her. His actions clearly triggered an insecurity within her. When I was putting myself in her shoes, I can see how she would feel very disrespected. And through her, we see how when we are triggered, we lash out and we presume it's about ourselves, when in reality, it had nothing to do with her. It has nothing to do with you, in that moment, right? And so, I wonder what would have happened if he communicated with his wife and just told her about the serpent. And I wonder what would have happened if he also recognized and acknowledged that she was uncomfortable and that he took it serious, you know? I mean, she did, you know, express what she was feeling, perhaps not in the best way, to be honest, if I, you know, seeing it from both sides, you know, she shrieked and said, "You're making fun of me. You don't care a thing about me." Okay, maybe that's not the best way to express how you're feeling. But she did tell him. And because of the situation, once again, just putting yourself in her shoes, or at least, well, I was putting myself in her shoes, all she sees is him just burst out laughing hysterically to a point where like he can't stop laughing after she says to him, "You don't care a thing about me." That part up until that point, I won't lie, I was like, oh man. Yeah, I feel that one. I feel it, you know? I understand her anger. I can see the situation and just sort of see how messed up it is, you know? And, you know, I was just looking at the story and I realized, because at first I thought, when I first read the story, but then I, you know, put it down, I went back to it, I read it again. At first I thought that she called him crazy. I mean, she did call him a fool, which once again, not the right language. But any which way, I thought that she was the one that called him crazy. But turns out it was actually the wise men who called him crazy. And we actually don't know her reaction of the news, of finally finding out the news of why he's laughing so much, the fact that he can speak to animals. We don't really know her reaction. I mean, completely possibility that because she was triggered, you know, as she said to the wise men and even to her husband, "I don't like being made fun of." You know, and she feels uncared for when she's made fun of, obviously. So perhaps through her trauma and her trigger, I should say, she probably still wouldn't have believed it. You know, that is always a possibility. But then perhaps there's a possibility as well that she could have. I mean, who knows? And that's not the point. It's just the kind of, I just wonder. I wonder what that storyline would actually look like. But anyway, overall, I find that the lessons that I took away from this story is that people won't understand your path. People may not even understand you. But, you know, up to a point, you don't owe anyone an explanation, or heck, in some situations you perhaps don't owe anyone an explanation. You know, if they don't understand you or your path, they just don't. But their thoughts and their feelings about you have nothing to do with who you are. And I think that is very much a lesson to remember when we are, let's say, walking an unconventional path that society doesn't quite understand. And I also took from this tale of just expanding like our thoughts on taboo things, you know, like for example, in this story, the serpent is a taboo conversation because there's so much fear that's wrapped around the serpent. When there is so much more to just explore with the meaning of the serpent. I personally love the meaning of the serpent. The serpent in a dream that I've had a long time ago is actually one of my first spiritual dreams. You know, it was with the serpent. That actually got me down the rabbit hole of, I remember like, what in the world did I just see? And that started me on my, on my path of where I'm at right now, So I know expanding our thoughts and our understanding of like taboo things like serpents, sex, gender, blood, and have a both and kind of mindset, the idea that two things can be true at once, and just expanding our minds that duality does but also doesn't exist. I think there's so much to learn in between, in the in-between. There's a lot to learn in the in-between. And that's a space that many of you know that I feel very, very comfortable in, So yeah, that's definitely a message that I resonated with in this tale. I would also say compassion is another message that I felt move through me, of the importance of putting yourself in other people's shoes and understanding how our actions may trigger them. And ideally, both sides are doing it, right? Both sides are putting themselves in each other's shoes. And by doing that, obtaining more compassion and understanding and a more holistic understanding of the situation. But of course, if only one side is doing it, then it just leads to nowhere. It leads to chaos and leads to, for both sides in different ways, resentment, and this misunderstanding, right? So we can't force anyone, of course, to see things from your point of view. That's not your responsibility. If that's not innately in them to do, or if that's something they just don't want to do, you don't have to put yourself through that. So in that situation, the best is to bow out as gracefully and kind as possible. And as the serpents say, just be at peace. And also, just maybe, a loss is not a loss, but perhaps it's protection. Perhaps it's freedom from walking along a path with someone or people that doesn't understand you or support you, which, as the serpent says, it frees you from having to walk that path with them. So yeah, as you can tell, this tale, it just gave me a lot to think about mainly about our relations with people and walking a path that is considered unconventional or of the outside of society and stuff like this. And I acknowledge, of course, because, I'm walking that path myself in many ways, of how lonely, it feels. How lonely it feels. But also this tale just reminded me of also the freedom. I love the part where, the serpent and the man, they meet up again, and the man is kind of moping and kind of, I would say, regretting his gift, But the serpent sort of brings that wisdom to him that kind of wakes him up and wait, yeah, you're right. I have freedom, I'm free, and he just goes off into the cornfield to listen to the birds. That totally sounds like something I would do. I love that. So I thoroughly enjoyed the tale. I won't lie. And now I have a new group of people that I can research and go down a rabbit hole about, and hopefully maybe somewhere along my path be able to meet the Nuer people. I think that's so exciting, and maybe hear it from their own mouths of this tale. I think that might be quite beautiful if that is to happen. But in support of learning more about the Nuer people in Sudan, I also encourage you to look into what's happening in Sudan and other said countries to deepen our knowledge, our wisdom, and our compassion. But anyway, beautifuls, thank you for being here with me. And as the serpent said, be merry and may the gods protect you. I hope that you enjoyed the tale, for just like you, I am but standing in front of the ocean in the cosmos in complete admiration of how much I don't know, but I'm excited that I get to be a student of myself and the world so that I can continue to explore what else unfolds. So again, thank you for being here with me, and until the next one, truth and love.